Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Warwick Science's film practical of an acid carbonate reaction. Now, as usual with all of our practicals, there will be a prac write-up that will come up on the screen. If you'd like to stop the video, get that down, and then restart the video when you are ready to go, that would be excellent. Okay, now with an acid carbonate reaction, we're going to be using once again our good old friend hydrochloric acid, and in this case we're going to be using the 1 molar hydrochloric acid, but we're also going to be using a group of chemicals that we call carbonates. Now, carbonates are found in all different areas, and we find them, for example, in limestone. So limestone walls and limestone that you collect from the ground will contain some carbonates, and it's calcium carbonate in that regard. Of course, the calcium carbonate that's found in the limestone comes from things like cuttlefish, which we find in the ocean. So the cuttle bone that you find, that gets mixed up with the rock and ends up being converted into the limestone, and of course that is part of their structure. We also find it in interesting things like teeth, just standard shells that we find around on the beach. It's also found and present in bones, and of course it makes up a part of marble, because when you put heat and pressure onto limestone you end up producing marble. Today, however, we're going to be using it in the powdered form, which is the calcium carbonate. So what I'm going to do with this particular beaker here is I'm going to place some calcium carbonate in, so you can see there just a white powder. So this is in your write-up, just a small amount of white powder there. Again, making sure that you always put the lid on, putting it out of the way, and then I'm going to add some of our good friend hydrochloric acid to it. So the first thing that you need to notice is what is occurring. Now what I might do is I might hold it up a little bit closer to the camera so you can basically see what's going on in there, and you can see straight away that it's starting to bubble. So in the inference you need to work out what is going on here. We know that this is a chemical reaction because we have some bubbles forming. Now it's crucial with this experiment that you actually stop and keep adding acid until all of the reaction stops, because what that then tells us is that there's no acid that is left. So whilst the bubbling is still going on, we're still getting there is still acid present in. Obviously with a chemical reaction we are rearranging what we put in, so the calcium carbonate, because it's calcium carbonate, and also the acid. So just to keep putting in, just to make sure that we have nothing else that is still bubbling there. So once it has finished bubbling, that then tells us that the acid is basically used up. So you can see what we end up with there. Okay. Now what we then need to do is we are then going to evaporate off. So what we've got is we've actually got a liquid being formed here. So the idea for the prac is to work out what you end up with. So we know that we've produced a gas because that was the initial reaction. We know that we've produced water. Now in this reaction, according to the prac write-up, you have three things. So one of them is a gas, and the other one is this liquid here. So the question is, what are we basically left with? Okay, so what I want to do, just to make sure that I've got everything reacted there, is I'm just going to put a little bit more in, just to ensure that I have no acid left. Okay, so just stir it around a bit, because I would rather have calcium carbonate left over, because that calcium carbonate then tells me that if it is left over, we've used up all of the acid, and for this particular experiment it is the acid that's going to be the problem. So I've stirred all that in. Okay, better to be safe than sorry. So now we've got a white powder there, Okay, and then what we do is we evaporate this off. So again, making sure that the Bunsen holes are out, and there's our safety flame, but with everything we put it onto a blue flame. So what we do is we basically now will evaporate that off, and that's just a standard evaporation. Always nice to see what is happening with this. So what I'll do is I'll just take the video out, and hopefully we can have a little bit of a look at what's going in there. You can see that is starting to bubble, so it's starting to evaporate out. You can start to see that there's white powder being formed on the outside. Okay, so you can see lots of bubbling there. Always important with this that if it starts to bubble over, that you can simply take it away, and that takes away the heat, and that helps to control the reaction. So again, we have more of that, and then obviously after a length of time we've evaporated one substance off. The question is, of course, what have we evaporated off? Now, a good idea with this practical is to remember what we made when we had an acid and a base, and could that basically work here. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll let that bubble for a little while, and then we'll come back to it, and we will continue on. So I'll just stop the video, wait for it to evaporate off, and then we're good to go. Okay, so we've actually evaporated most of the liquid off, so we can see what we're basically left with, and you can see here now that what we are left with is in fact a white powder. Okay, now again, with chemistry is about repeating patterns, so the question is, what are we basically left with, and what could that be? So remember, we're looking for three things that are produced from an acid carbonate reaction. We know that we have produced water, because that's our liquid. We know that we produced a gas, and the question is, what gas is that? And we know that we have produced another material. Have a guess at what you think it may be, and then again, based upon what we did and what was done in the acid-base neutralization reaction, and then basically take your workbook to your teacher, get them to have a look at it, and make sure that you have everything that's correct. Also, with this one, probably not a bad idea to download the acid reactions catch-up sheet from the library section. So thank you very much for accessing Warwick Science's film practical of an acid carbonate reaction.